And so what is happening here is he's saying, look, obey my commandments so that your joy may be full. He's saying, I'm the designer of it. I know how it's supposed to work. So follow my instructions. Let me teach you how this is supposed to go. Let me show you how life is supposed to function, and that will bring you joy. And so what happens is, as we obey the commands of Christ, we see, hey, that led me into joy. And we end up with this cycle of building joy. I mean, think about the commands of Christ. What are they? Love your neighbor. Be at peace with people. Have some humility. Care about others more than you care for yourself. Give grace as you have received grace. And so we have these commandments, and this is the weird thing, because our selfish, prideful nature wants to say, what? There's no joy in those things. But we know that as we've walked with Christ, following these commandments, that whenever you take the time to, rather than watching the new episode of whatever it is that just came out, or binge watching something on Netflix, or whatever it is that is your kind of recreational thing, you go, you know what, instead of doing that, I'm going to go help somebody. And then that felt good. Right? James has called me before and said, hey, there's a lady that I'm helping move, and I could really just use some hands to kind of just, pack the truck and kind of help her get moved. I show up, second floor apartment. Half the place is not even packed yet. I show up expecting to just, load some boxes on a truck. So I show up. She doesn't have anything packed. So we've got whatever empty boxes we can. We're just running to the house, throwing stuff in. We get to the point where it's just garbage bags. We're just throwing stuff in garbage bags. And then it's like, James, what are we doing with that piano? Because you didn't say anything about a piano, right? And so we end up moving a piano, which, by the way, she moved from a second-story apartment to a second-story apartment. But here's the thing. My back didn't feel good, but emotionally, that felt good. That felt good knowing there was that lady who had to be out of her apartment, had to be gone. And I helped her do that. I mean, in the moment, I wasn't too happy about it. But just looking back and going, you know what? She could not have gotten that done if we hadn't been there for her. And that brought me joy. So as we follow the commands of God, look, we love God. We recognize you are God. You are sovereign. You are creator. So I'm going to obey your command. And we obey the command, and the command leads to joy. And we go, wow, that was nice. I'm going to do it again. So the joy spurs us into further obedience. And that obedience leads us into more joy. And that joy stirs us to love God more. And that love of God motivates us to obedience. And that obedience leads us into joy. And that joy increases in our love for God and stirs our affections for Christ. And so that leads us into obedience. And the obedience brings us more. And so you get this cycle of joy. So whenever Christ is saying, if you want your joy to be full, you've got to obey my commandments. He's not being bossy. It's not for his sake. He doesn't need it. It's for us. Because that's the way we're designed. That as we do these things to where we live for others, where we set aside our pride, where we set aside our wants and desires, and we give sacrificially of ourselves for the benefit of others, it creates joy in our hearts. It stirs our affections for Christ all the more. And we get stuck in that wonderful spiral upwards of love and joy and grace and peace. And so where our selfishness and our pride sees obedience as a burden to be avoided, and sin promises us happiness through the pursuit of pleasure, the truth is that our joy is found in our obedience to the commands of God. It's only in the commands of Christ that our joy can be made full.